Towards the end of the 18th century in Europe, especially in Germany, a new movement was founded which was interested in deeply spiritual matters. The origin of mankind and all the secrets of Atlantis were of particular interest. These spiritual groups were inspired mediumistically by invisible masters who taught European scientists visiting India and Tibet.
Most of us are familiar with our world as we view it from weather satellites on the evening news. These satellites go around the planet from east to west or from west to east. There are a few satellites called polar satellites that go around the Earth, North and South Pole. However, data is not available to the public for a view of the North Pole or the South Pole. Only the center section.
Many newly founded occult sects discovered that there were esoteric lodges before them, such as the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, and the Illuminati, who were pulling the strings of world politics.
There are only a few polar satellites. In February of 2006, the federal government issued a data denial implementation plan, which secures the continued flow of real-time meteorological satellite data from the NOAA, provided instruments on board EUMETSAT's METCOP spacecraft to public duty users in the United States. During episodes that might otherwise require data denial. Data denial means real-time data from U.S. environmental instruments can be denied during periods of crisis or war. There are no publicly available images of the North Pole.
You take Atlantis as a model for survival. It is clear in the folklore and literature of the major continents of our planet that some of the races went into the earth. I brought with me from Africa pictures of these grotesque serpent-like beings. Many of them correspond to the extraterrestrial reports and photographs of some of these so-called snake people or serpent people.
Behind a barrier of molten lava, an empire of evil, an inferno ruled by winged creatures like guardians of the gates of hell.
The source of the Aurora Borealis, the place where it's said there lays an elusive opening between a surface world where the sun shines and the stars twinkle in the night, and an inner world, a land with no horizon.
Let the whiff of remembrance tell the tale. 40,000 years ago, the glory of Cobra-La dominated this planet. But an age of ice destroyed much of what we had built, and with it began the time of the barbarians.
At the meetings, they discovered that the financial lodges of the Zionists had merely used them on the battlefields. One can only guess that they saw the personified Satan in both the Freemason and the capitalistic lodges, who had financed the war.
Technology based on inorganic, lifeless substances. Their culture was a travesty of our own noble ways, and a threat to our very existence.
Last century, various scientists searched for the pole openings. Accordingly, the South Pole is supposed to be the head chakra of the Earth and have an enormous pole opening. The North Pole would be the root chakra. During this century, two great efforts were made to find these pole openings and to make contact with the extraterrestrial races who built the underground cities within the Earth.
We retreated to preserve our ways and await an opportunity to reclaim the Earth.
On the 19th of February 1947, American explorer Rear Admiral Richard Byrd of the US Navy flew to the South Pole. It's said that when he came back, he wrote down what had happened on this expedition.
Well, I got to tell you, the Admiral Byrd story is one of the strangest I've ever heard because it comes from someone of such credibility.
Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd explored Antarctica on 5 expeditions. A decorated World War I fighter pilot, Byrd combined traditional dog sleds with high-tech equipment and aerial survey, creating the most advanced exploration methods of his day.
And, he had his diary. It's just a bizarre story. I mean, to have his plane, as you say, the engine's cut off, and it's glided into this other land, Shangri-La, wherever it may be, within the center of the planet. The curvature, I guess, is ever so slight. He never realized he was making that spin right into it.
What do we know about Operation High Jump, about Admiral Byrd's expedition in the autumn of 46, the early spring of 47, to the South Pole?
Under the living. The smooth shelf roughens. Dark rocks, called nunataks, appear above the ice. Then rugged mountain ranges as far as the eye can see. Bunger leans forward in amazement. His eyes have caught a sudden and unbelievable change in scenery. The universal white has turned to chocolate brown, dotted with blue. A cameraman goes into action. 300 square miles of land without snow. Land that might be in New Mexico or Arizona.
Incredibly enough, in an official American Navy documentary film, we found footage of what Admiral Byrd found on the South Pole. He found giant freshwater, never freezing lakes with areas around them that were free of any snow. And
pictures alone will prove Bunger has discovered a warm oasis in the shadow of the pole. It is for such supreme moments as this that men brave the hardships of exploration. The astounding, undreamed of fact is that they are over a chain of warm water lakes, whose shores, except for small patches, are free of ice and snow.
And in an interview at Buenos Aires on his way back, Admiral Byrd made the incredible statement that the Third World War would probably be with an adversary coming from the polar regions of our planet, an adversary that has the ability to fly unobstructed from pole to pole. He was referring to the Germans at their South Polar colony at Neuschwabenland that were operating their anti-gravity craft with impunity and could fly circles around the globe and, of course, would shoot out of the sky any of the attacking American planes.
The Nazis were better informed by the secret esoteric orders and had exact knowledge about the lost cities of Agartha and Shambhala. Many of their expeditions involved searching for the entrances into the inner world and the lost techniques of the gods.
It boggles the mind to try to grasp what these guys were thinking because it is so totally alien. And that allowed them to go into areas that are completely beyond the Western paradigm, beyond what Western science says. This is what science is. And the Nazis said, yeah, this is what science is.
If you've seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, then you're familiar with Nazi Germans running all over the world looking for artifacts and relics from which they could summon a spiritual power. And we have the records. There's no doubt that they did that.
We must not forget one man who did not live to see the Third Reich, but who had a striking and important influence on Hitler, the writer and poet Dietrich Eckart.
For a while, Dietrich Eckart lived at the foot of the mountain Untersberg and was initiated into the medieval mysteries and into the legends of caves. Adolf Hitler spent many hours with Dietrich Eckart at the Obersalzberg mountain, and both were followers of the hollow earth theory of Hans Erdinger. The Untersberg was already considered by the Templars to be a volcano with an access to the inner earth and to the legendary hollow world. Dietrich Eckart shaped Hitler's thinking more than we can imagine today. He also directed him towards a mediumistic education and showed him how to make contact with the spiritual world, in particular with the Germanic gods and the ancient Hyperia people from Agartha.
Shortly before his death, in 1923, Dietrich Eckart is supposed to have said, "Follow Hitler, Hitler will dance. I have composed the music to his dance. I have given him the opportunity to get in touch with them. Do not accuse me. I will have had more influence on history than anybody else. To get in touch with them, what did he mean? In essence, and theoretically, it meant that Dietrich Eckart gave Hitler the possibility to contact the powers of Agati. He convinced him that he had to complete the work of Agati. It meant the demise of Shambhala represented in the international Freemasonry.
Hermann Oberth gave a quote that we were helped by people from other worlds. What do you mean?
After World War II, he joined the UFO movement in Germany. He became the honorary president of the German UFO Study Group. And the German UFO Study Group involved contactees and psychics. He himself worked with a channel medium and received channeled information.
So he was successful?
Yeah, very much.
He did get information.
He believed in it. He believed, but he came in contact with extraterrestrials through this channeling medium.
What a shock. Michael Hessman told us that Hermann Oberth, the father of Nazi rocketry, was a trance medium. Could that be one of the reasons the Germans were 25 years ahead of the rest of the world when it came to technology? And Oberth brought that ability to NASA in the 1960s. That's a huge revelation.
As much as there is an outer world, there is, because of polarity, an inner world. In other words, the Earth is hollow. As things are on a small scale, so they are on a large scale. Hermes Trismegistos taught that everything in the universe is set up according to the same organizational plan. One could say that the Earth is like a huge atom, hollow inside, with a nucleus at the center which represents the inner sun. Just as we humans do not see the outer curve of the globe, one is not able to perceive the inner curve when entering Hypereia, the legendary lost crystal cities of Agartha. The initiated were able to get in touch with the civilizations of the inner Earth through gates. Until the sinking of Atlantis, this was general knowledge.